London's drill scene might be more brutal than Chicago, and today we're breaking down the craziest machete fights, shootouts, and bombings that turned London into a war zone. Moscow 17's beef with Zone 2 might be the biggest and most disrespectful drill wars in London. Moscow 17 was a crew based in Brandon Estate, and Zone 2 was mostly from Bell's Gardens Estate and other parts of North Peckham. And back in the day, Zone 2 and Moscow 17 didn't have any issues. In 2015, both crews had members who were tight with the dude named MK from AY17. And after MK got stabbed to death by some dudes from China Walk, Moscow 17 and Zone 2 both started beefing with China Walk. Moscow and Zone 2 also had family ties, cause Trizak and Suge Mike from Zone 2 were cousins with Incognito from Moscow. But some people were saying that Incognito actually shot his own cousin, and that's what sparked the whole war. Back in 2015, Suge Mike from Zone 2 and his cousin Incognito were both at a house party, and Suge Mike ended up getting shot. Nobody knows how it really went down, but some people were saying that Incognito was the one who pulled the trigger. Other sources say Incognito didn't have anything to do with it and just saw it go down. But in 2016, the beef really kicked off when a Zone 2 member named Preacher robbed a family member of a dude from Moscow. Loose Screw became one of the most notorious Crashouts in Moscow 17, and he was the one whose family got robbed by Preacher. Loose wanted to link up with Preacher to get back what Preacher stole, so they met up in Zone 2 territory, and Loose allegedly stomped him out. Loose's homie Tizzy T was tight with Preacher and wanted them to squash it before it got out of control, but then the violence went to a whole new level. A few months after Loose put hands on Preacher, Loose and his homie Jet Black were driving around the city and spotted a dude from Zone 2 named Crimes. Loose ran Crimes over with the whip, then Jet Black hopped out and stabbed him while he was on the ground. Crimes snitched on both of them, and Jet Black got convicted while Loose skated on the case. Loose has been dissing Crimes in the booth ever since, like on the track Industry Rappers when he said, "Long time I ain't seen Crimes, but truthfully, I don't want to see him. That boy is a rat." Tizzy T was the one who wanted Preacher and Loose to squash the beef, but that's not how it went down, and Preacher ended up stabbing Tizzy T in the chest. Tizzy T actually died at the scene for a few minutes, but luckily the paramedics rolled up and were able to bring him back to life. Tizzy T survived the stabbing, but he got dissed on the track Facts when Mad Max rapped, "Tizzy T died and woke up, B. Niggas from Moscow broke, trying to catch a kill, all black from my head to my toes. How about the whiz?" And then man froze. And true say, that's why I only push my shank up on them necks. Rev this bitch, two-step. I thought Tizzy T was dead when PS chinged the man's chest. The beef was heating up, but for some reason, Loose decided to walk through Peckham by himself without a gun or knife, and a dude named Six caught him lacking and stabbed Loose. Around the same time, the Moscow and Zone 2 war was all over the news after they were caught on camera chasing each other around with knives at a fair. Rizzy Ramps was at the fair with his mom when Six and RK from Zone 2 spotted him and started chasing Rizzy with knives. They stabbed Rizzy in the stomach in front of hundreds of people, and Rizzy had to be picked up by a helicopter ambulance. On the same track Mad Max dissed Tizzy T, he also sent a shot at Rizzy and rapped, "Ramps got chinged in front of his mom, like OMG." Preacher also confirmed it was Six and RK who stabbed Rizzy when he dropped the track Creep and Quang and rapped, "Me and Dan's got like 4 each. Six and RK got him in front of his mom and sister. That's naughty." Mad Max dropped some crazy disses on Moscow 17, but he was putting pressure on him in the streets too. One time, Mad Max got the drop on a Moscow affiliate named Knockout Ned while he was at a McDonald's. Mad Max stabbed him in the leg, and on the track Facts, he raps, "Who was there to back Ned when I splashed him up in MacD's? Walk with my flicky on me. If I see Ned again, gonna knock him out 3 times. Zone 2 is dissing Moscow on social media too, but they weren't the only ones putting in work. A couple days after Knockout Ned got stabbed, Tizzy T and Loose from Moscow 17 got the drop on Preacher from Zone 2. Tizzy T and Loose both stabbed him in the park. Then Loose rapped about it on the track Tools and said, "Tizzy, that's bro from Young. For him, get one in your lungs. I swear I gave him one in his Tums. In Burgess Park, that was all mod. I'll splash man down. I've got no composure. Still Moscow marched with soldiers." The cops wanted to book Tizzy T for stabbing Preacher, but he did the race and has been hiding out in Nigeria ever since they put out the warrant. Tizzy T is still making music, but he was able to stay out of all the violence that was about to go down in London. Moscow and Zone 2 were sliding on each other like crazy. Rhino from Moscow got stabbed right in front of Loose. Then Ted Maddock from Moscow clapped back and stabbed Fredro from Zone 2 over 10 times. Ted Maddock had a wild and brutal story outside of the beef too though. Around the same time he stabbed Fredro from Zone 2, Ted also stabbed one of his homies and left him paralyzed. Ted went down for attempted murder and served 5 years, then the homie he stabbed ended up dying, and Ted's charges got upgraded to a full-on murder charge. That's when both sides really started putting in work in the booth, and Zone 2 took the disrespect up a level when they made a Moscow 17 diss track in Moscow's own hood. A few months later, Luce and his homie TTP went sliding in Peckham looking for Zone 2 members. TTP had a shotgun in the whip, but Zone 2 heard they were in Peckham and started hunting TTP and Luce. Quangface and some other dudes from Zone 2 spotted Luce and TTP and chased them into a shop, and that's when Quangface stabbed Luce in the arm. TTP still had his shotgun though, and he made the Zone 2 dude scatter when he let off a shot. Then right after it went down, Quangface and Luce went on IG Live together and started taking shots at each other.
You wanna lie man thing all the time though, I'm not gonna lie, I'll believe Triz over you any day.
Oh yeah, you'll believe Triz over me. The same guy that used to pull up outside and listen and say, I'm not involved in your beef, don't worry.
Yeah, he wasn't though, you know he wasn't man, come on.
No, he was a nerd,
Then the day after Luce got stabbed, Moscow 17 caught Dice from Zone 2 and stabbed him over 10 times. And on the track Lightwork Freestyle, Luce dissed Dice and rapped, 10 ops, don't know what to do. I'm loose, I back my Bruce. Swing my shank, trying to catch me a 2. I heard Dice got rolled, no Monopoly team. That's a young black lad on the news. Both sides were sliding like crazy, but at that point, nobody had actually died from the war yet. Then in June 2017, Moscow slid on Zone 2 and left a dude dead in the street. Jet Black and Incognito rode to Zone 2 territory on their bikes looking for Six. Six had already stabbed a few Moscow members and they want to get back, but instead, they spotted Six's homie Abs. Abs allegedly wasn't involved with the beef, but was tight with a lot of Zone 2 members, and that's what apparently got him killed. Incognito chased Abs down and allegedly stabbed him 4 times in the stomach, but the cops got to him fast because Abs' homie saw it all go down. Abs was still a loss for Zone 2, even if he didn't rep the crew, and on the track Facts, Mad Max raps, RIP Abs, that's an innocent youth. Incognito and Jet Black went to trial, and Abs' homie testified against them, but the cops didn't have a lot of evidence besides that. Surveillance footage proved that Incognito and Jet Black were in the area, but there wasn't any video of the actual murder, so Incognito and Jet Black both skated on the case. There were stabbings going down all the time, while Incognito and Jet Black were fighting the murder charge. And after Jet Black came home, a bunch of Zone 2 members slid into Moscow 17 territory and tried to get Jet Black to come outside.
Call me Jet, man.
Jet Black didn't meet the Zone 2 dudes out there, but later that same day, Luce and Jet Black went walking through Zone 2's hood and posted about it on social media.
Come on, we out here, bro. We out here. 2-man step, you know how it is. We out on your block, bitches.
Zone 2 wanted to get back at Incognito since he allegedly killed Abs, and in May 2018, they went sliding again in Moscow's hood to find him. Incognito was walking with his homies GB and MY when Zone 2 pulled up with a shotgun. Incognito took off running, and MY hit the ground before the shot started going off, but GB got hit in the chest and tragically died at the scene. Before GB got killed, London drill was blowing up like crazy. Moscow 17 and Zone 2 were getting major looks all over the city. They had so much buzz that Adidas actually sponsored the whole gang and did a collab with Zone 2. But after GB got murdered, the cops started cracking down on the drill scene and took all of Moscow's music off of social media. GB's murder changed the whole wave though, because rappers had to start censoring their own tracks so the cops wouldn't take it down. That's when the drill sound changed and started going more commercial. Incognito tried to slide for GB and allegedly shot someone on the drill, but Zone 2 was still the ones doing the killing. And a month after GB got murdered, Zone 2 caught another body when they killed a dude named SJ. SJ was just a weed dealer who wasn't involved with the beef, but he allegedly robbed a Zone 2 member named Lil Denz, so Lil Denz, Mad Max, and 2 other dudes allegedly stabbed him to death. At first it looked like they were gonna get away with it, but then a couple months later, Lil Denz got pulled over and the cops found a knife and SJ's blood in the whip. Lil Denz and his homie both got booked, but Mad Max went on the run and has been hiding out in Nigeria. Moscow 17 had just lost GB, and a couple months later, they took another loss when Latz got killed. Latz and Incognito were tight, and rumors say that Latz tried to hit up Incognito so they could slide on the ops, but Incognito missed the call. Latz went riding out with a dude named Mimes instead, and Latz ended up getting killed that night. Then just a month after Latz died, Moscow 17 took their biggest loss yet, when Incognito got stabbed to death. Zone 2 had been wanting to take Incognito out for years, but he got killed over something that didn't have anything to do with the war. Incognito was supposed to be selling some drugs to a dude named Kenneth the Mezzi, but Incognito was planning on robbing Kenneth with one of his younger homies. When Kenneth realized what was going down, he pulled out a knife and chased Incognito and his homie down the street, and that's when Incognito's little homie pulled out his own blade. Kenneth and the younger dude got into a knife fight, and Incognito jumped in to help, and that's when he got stabbed in the neck 2 times and bled out on the scene. Incognito was one of the biggest rappers in Moscow 17, and his death was when everything started to fall apart for them. Jet Black and Loose were already locked up, and other members started getting kicked out of the crew over some internal beef. Moscow and Zone 2 were still siding on each other, but they were also splitting up into other crews. Loose came home a few months after Incognito got killed and was still caught up in all the drama.
Yes! Who's that? Yeah!
Bodies were still dropping in the streets, and on the 1-year anniversary of GB's murder, his homie Junior went to where he died. Junior was allegedly just going to pay his respects, but he got spotted by the ops and was stabbed to death. Then in 2019, some Zone 2 affiliates went sliding into Moscow territory looking for a dude named Reeps. Reeps didn't rep Moscow, but he was tight with them, so he still had a target on his back. But instead of catching Reeps, the Zone 2 affiliate spotted a dude named Lil CJ and chased him down an alley. Lil CJ tried to climb a tree to get away, but they pulled him down and stabbed him to death. Loose got stabbed again while he was eating at a restaurant. Then a few months later, he got shot in the stomach. That still didn't make him so down on dissing the ops though. After a dude named Labs was stabbed to death in 2021, Loose dissed him on the track New Season and rapped, "Smoke on abs and labs, I know you can smell that stench." Loose was in and out of jail for a while, then he came home and someone threw acid on his face while he was at a house party. He went back to prison for a while and finally switched up how he moved though, and now Loose is focused on music and personal training instead of sliding on the ops. Moscow was still having a lot of drama though, and in 2023, a dude from Moscow named KT got chased down by the ops. KT got chased in his whip for over 20 minutes after the ops spotted him, and when they caught him, the ops started dumping bullets into the whip. KT got hit twice and survived, but he got kicked out of Moscow 17 when he testified against the shooters. Zone 2 and Moscow 17 aren't big crews like they were when the war was popping off. A lot of dudes ended up dead or in jail, and they started splitting off into smaller crews because the cops were all over them too. Moscow 17 and Zone 2 were all over the news because of the war, but a crew called the Harlem Spartans really took the drill wave to the next level. The Harlem Spartans were cool with Moscow 17 back in the day and had issues with Zone 2, but the Spartans mainly beefed with a crew called 410. The Spartans have been popping off in the drill wave and going back and forth with 410 for years, but in 2018, the beef took a brutal turn when Latz got killed. Latz was tied with Moscow 17, but he repped Harlem Spartans and tried to slide on the ops with a Moscow affiliate named Mimes. According to rumors, Mimes was driving a moped with Latz riding behind him with a gun. They spotted some ops sitting in the whip, and Latz upped the strap to shoot, but his gun jammed, and the ops grabbed him off the back of the moped and pulled him through the window of their whip and started stabbing him. Mimes allegedly drove off while Latz was getting stabbed to death, and rumors say it was some dudes from 410 who killed him. Later that night, the Spartans allegedly slid into 410's hood and shot up some of their cribs, but nobody got hit. Both sides were dropping diss tracks too, and a couple of dudes from 410 became the first rappers to ever go to prison just for performing a track. Skangdo and AM both rep 410 and were popping off in the booth so much that the police told them they couldn't perform in some areas of London. Skangdo and AM had just dropped a wild diss track on the Spartans called Attempted 1.0, and the cops were afraid that the track was going to spark even more violence in the streets. Skangdo and AM were taking crazy shots at dudes like AD and Lowski from Harlem Spartans when they rapped. And AD, he was my friend for years. Why you gotta fuck with them? Niggas ain't real. Lowski left you twice, and both times, man got chefed. Run a man down. One time a dude from 410 got stabbed by the Spartans, so later that same day, 410 rode out and stabbed a Spartan named YB in the head. And on Attempted 1.0, Skangdo and AM rapped, "Oh, I can't believe my eyes. YB's been chef like 100 times. Ooh, can I speak to a referee? That point don't count. It's below the knee." Heat for the mash, I'm cooking it. Come on the fields and look at it. You don't want war, you're shook of it. Then Skangdo and AM took the disrespect up a level and performed the track at a show in Kennington. The Harlem Spartans are from the area, and the cops knew the situation could pop off, so they threw Skangdo and AM in prison just for performing the track. Last getting killed was a huge loss for the Spartans, and a lot of people think his death is what sparked the whole crew falling off. Dudes like Scratcha and GG got locked up while they were allegedly trying to get back for Latz. And then they took another huge loss when Bis got brutally stabbed to death. Bis was one of the most well-known dudes from the Harlem Spartans, and he allegedly got killed because someone was dissing Latz. According to rumors, Bis was on the phone with some dudes who weren't even involved with the beef, and one of them was clowning Latz's murder. Bis spotted the dudes who dissed Latz sitting in the car, so Bis topped out and hit the whip with the hammer. That's when 4 dudes jumped out with machetes and started cutting and stabbing Bis to death in the middle of the street. South London gets a lot of press over the violence going on down there, but the North gets active too, and in 2022, a rapper named Dims or Dimma got chased down and killed with a machete. Dims allegedly repped a crew called BHP, but he was trying to make it in the rap game too, and had his first show just a few days before he got killed. A dude named T Traps from Enfield spotted Dims while he was chilling with some friends on the 7th floor of an apartment building, and that's when T Traps went after him with a machete. Dims tried to run, but didn't make it out fast enough. A lot of people don't think neighborhoods out east are as bad, but what happened to a rapper named Giddy out there is like something straight out of a horror movie. Giddy repped a set in East London called Drillford and was allegedly sending his homies on some major crash-out missions. And after they killed a dude, the dude's brother spun on Giddy in one of the most brutal get-backs of all time. Giddy, his cousin, and some homies were chilling in the crib when somebody started pounding on the door and telling them to open up. Giddy asked who it was, and that's when the ops kicked in the door and everyone started running. Giddy, his cousin Zach, and 2 other dudes ran into a bedroom and started trying to block the door. One of the homies jumped out of the window and another dude hid behind the bed, and that's when the shots started going off. Giddy and Zach both got hit, and their homie had to lay there behind the bed and listen to what happened next. The ops opened up the door while Giddy and Zach were screaming from the shots they already took. Then the ops started shooting and stabbing them even more, and somebody said, "He's not dead yet, finish him, stab him, kill him." It's not always the ops who get you though, and in 2022, a rapper named Maddox got murdered by the police. Maddox repped a crew called 6'7" and started getting locked up for stabbing people when he was 13. He was putting major pressure on the ops, and in August 2022, he allegedly tried to get an op killed at a club in Hackney. A dude named Brandon Malucci was shot in the legs at the club, and the cops said that Maddox put a hit on him, but Brandon Malucci made it out alive. Then just a few days later, Maddox was driving around in a whip that was allegedly used in the hit on Brandon Malucci, and the cops tried to pull him over. They blocked Maddox's whip with their cars and told him to get out, and that's when Maddox allegedly ran one of the cops' cars and they shot him to death. The cops have been trying to crack down on drill rappers and bring the violence down, but in 2025, rappers are still getting brutally killed in broad daylight. Grippa was a drill rapper who was just getting started in the rap game. In January 2025, he was sitting on the second level of a bus when 2 ops came up with swords and stabbed him over 20 times. Rumors say that the killers were 2 dudes that Grippa used to be cool with, and that's why the attack was so brutal. The killers got caught less than a week later because they posted pics right after the stabbing wearing the same clothes that were spotted on surveillance cameras from the bus. Grippa knew he had a target on his back, and a couple hours before he got killed, he called someone and said he needed to get a knife because he was in the middle of a war.
Yo, my nigga, I'm in the middle of a war right now. I need that, bro. I'll buy that off you. It's Grippa G, man. Buy that today.
There's beef all over the London drill scene, but one of the craziest wars was when Peckham and Brixton started dropping ops, killing their own homies, and getting killed in airstrikes. Peckham and Brixton have been beefing since the 50s, but the violence really kicked off in the 2000s. Back then, there weren't as many cameras in the city, and it was easier to get guns, and that's how the beef got so deadly. The Peckham boys were beefing with a crew called the Ghetto Boys, and in 2004, they got into a shootout at the Urban Music Awards. Then the Ghetto Boys started spinning in Peckham and shooting up the hood, so the Peckham boys clapped back and murdered 2 Ghetto Boys affiliates. The Peckham boys had a ton of members, and one time they rode out 40 deep and stabbed a dude named Jason Gale Brent to death. Jason had repped the Ghetto Boys back in the day, but decided to get out of the trenches after he survived getting stabbed. Leaving the crew didn't save him though, and Jason still ended up dying in the street. The Ghetto Boys clapped back and tried to shoot some of the Peckham boys the next day, but all the shots missed. The beef was heating up, but then it ended out of nowhere after an OG in the Ghetto Boys named Sparks got killed by his own homie. Sparks was a major crash out and allegedly killed someone back in 2002. Then in 2006, he stomped out his own homie's dad and stole his car. Sparks' homie wasn't gonna let Sparks put hands on his dad like that, so he set Sparks up with a fake drug deal and got him killed. The Ghetto Boys split up after Sparks died, and some of them actually got cool with the Peckham boys. But the Peckham boys were about to take the violence in London to another level. Back then, a dude named Snap Capone was one of the biggest rappers in Peckham. He was also one of the biggest Crashouts and allegedly caught at least 2 bodies. And on the track Shots, he rapped, "I killed 2 niggas and shot 20 niggas and still ain't been touched. Excellent finish, clinical headshots. Feds caught night gloves, see red in my eyes like Cyclops. If I bang on your whip, that's a write-off. If I ride to your block, that's a life lost." Snap allegedly even shot one of his own homies for taking his strap and bragged about it on the track 4 Summers when he rapped, "Fresh home from jail, completed 4 summers. Calling for a meeting if the niggas talking numbers. Nigga, I ain't greedy, I feed on my youngers. The nigga robbed my gun, so I shot him in the stomach." Peckham had already been beefing with Brixton for years, but it really turned up when some dudes from Brixton tried to kill Snap and his homie Nutty. The ops caught him lacking and started shooting, but Snap and Nutty both made it out alive while an innocent bystander got hit and killed. Brixton and Peckham started trading diss tracks. Then some Brixton dudes slid through Peckham and killed a dude named Terms. It didn't take long for Peckham to slide for Terms though, and a month later, a Peckham set called SN1, aka Spare No One, clapped back and allegedly killed a dude from Brixton named Sense. SN1 was having some internal drama too though. A dude named Big Larry had ties to SN1, but after he fell out with them, his own homie shot him in the back of the head. Peckham's war with Brixton slowed down because they started having all kinds of internal beef and killing each other. Snap Capone's homie Nutty got hit with the gun charge and wanted a young dude from Peckham named Samuel Laguna to take the fall for it. Samuel Laguna said he wasn't going to take the gun charge though, so someone from Peckham pulled up and shot him to death and set his car on fire. Sets and Peckham started breaking up and killing each other. Then the Peckham boys started beefing with their old homies on Woolwich Road too. The Woolwich boys were a problem, but nobody expected what happened next. The terrorist group ISIS started recruiting gang members from Woolwich, and 16 of them flew to Syria to train and fight. But right after the Woolwich boys touched down in Syria, they all got blown up in an airstrike. After the Ghetto Boys started splitting up into other sets, they were still making a lot of noise in the streets. Some of the dudes from the block started repping 814, but that situation went left when 2 of their biggest hitters got killed back to back. M. Dot was the first big loss for 814. He was allegedly putting a lot of pressure on the ops, but then he ended up getting stabbed to death over a stolen bike. M. Dot's homie Shoki was the biggest rapper in the crew, and after M. Dot died, Shoki allegedly slid for him and hopped in the booth and rapped, "Bro, I still dry my eyes, and I'd be lying if I said that I still didn't ride. M. Dot, my oh my, king of the gets, talk of the town." Shoki had a lot of buzz in the rap game, but he was still trying to catch ops whenever he could.
Where we?
He was running up millions of views and getting shoutouts from people in the industry. But Shoki told one of his friends that he had a feeling he was gonna die and become a legend. He could have made it out of the streets if he focused on rapping, but Shoki still had both feet in the trenches and got brutally killed at a house party. On the night Shoki died, there were over 200 people partying at a crib in Peckham. Shoki showed up with his brother and a couple of homies. Then right when he walked inside the crib, somebody walked up to Shoki with a huge knife and stabbed him in the heart. The dude who killed Shoki got found not guilty because he claimed self-defense, but he still dissing Shoki even though it's been a decade since it went down. A lot of drill rappers get killed in London before they make it out of the trenches, but UK's biggest rapper of all time barely survived a gang war in West London. Central C is one of the hottest rappers in the world, but most of his fans have no idea how close he came to dying in the streets. Central C came up on the west end of London in a neighborhood called Shepherd's Bush. Central C actually tried to be legit at first and worked at a shoe store, but then he got active in the trenches and started pushing weight. There were 2 main sets around Central C's hood called 12 World and 12 Anti. And in 2017, a rapper named Digga D got arrested for planning a hit on 12 World. Digga D reps a crew called 1011 that had beef with Shepherd's Bush. And on the track Next Up, Digga's homie Savo raps, "How many times have I rid on Bush? Like one of them boys gotta go. Back out my ting and make man swim. Like Ching Man down on Volts. Catch me a op, then stab up his head. Then 10 toes back to the Grove." Digga and his homies were popping off in the rap game, but then they got caught trying to slide on 12 World with a bunch of bats and machetes. Digga got locked up and had a bunch of his music taken down by the cops, and around the same time, Central C started dropping his own music. A lot of Central C's ops were locked up when he started making music, but then Digga came home in 2018 and allegedly almost killed Central C and his brother. It's all just rumors that haven't been confirmed, but Digga and his homie allegedly spotted Central C and his brother on the block and hopped out to press him. It's not clear exactly how it went down, but Digga allegedly stabbed Central C's brother and tried to stab Central C too. Digga got locked up again and lost his eye when someone stabbed him with a tuna can while he was in jail. Then he came home and bragged about stabbing Central C's brother on an unreleased track when he raps, "Who the fuck is Central C? The only Wild and West is me. We chefed his brother, went to jail, but still took the not guilty plea." And on another leak, he said, "Don't compare me to Central C. He just stood there and watched when we chinged his brother. I went to jail for that little fucker. I still came home to the nicest supper." Then Central C clapped back with the track called Shoulder when he rapped, "Last time I let that slide, but this time I ain't gonna let that run. They made a diss track, that shit was too whack to get a response. It's sad cause I love my hood where I'm from, but that place ain't where I belong." Digga kept getting caught up in legal drama while Central C was racking up billions of streams and working with huge artists like Drake. A lot of people say Central C was never really that active in the beef with Digga's crew, but Central C is allegedly still dissing on unreleased tracks with bars like, "I'm conflicted, beef is bad for business, money is more important, got a bad bitch that'll make man fall in love, then lure him. I'm trying to leave my man 6 foot under and fuck up his health insurance." Central C has enough money to never touch the trenches again, but Digga's homies are still stabbing dudes who dissed them. Central C was always tight with dudes from 12 Anti, even though he allegedly wasn't really involved with the beef, but he made it out while the dudes who got left behind in Shepherd's Bush are still getting shot at in broad daylight.